Hi, welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to be going over all the books that have joined my collection this year and also the books that I have read.
You can't say you didn't see this coming. Finally got some inspiration right again.
So for the books that I have bought this year, or at least have joined my collection this year, there are quite a few, and this collection is probably not all because I know that I will be having some more books over Christmas, and I'm filming this video a little early, so there's probably more books to be added to this officially in 2022, but so far this is my collection. I have recently rearranged my book collection, and for that reason I have now reorganized my bookshelves. So at the far left of my bookshelf we start with my Dutch books, and below it we have some random books, I guess I would call them. They don't really fit into the other categories that I have on my bookshelves. And if we move over, we find a section that is dedicated to some non-fiction books, and above it we have just some empty spaces. If we then move over again, we have some series at the top and some more series and standalones at the bottom. The bottom part of this is also where I have some of my indie friends, so nice and cute. And then my last section is where I have put some more series and books that kind of belong together. Just to include all of the books I own, there's also a row of Dutch books at the top of my bookshelves that I forgot to mention. So for books that I have bought this year, this lovely book set from the Bridgerton books that was an Aluminum Crate edition. I have bought that this year. I've also bought the Bone Witch series, which is also behind me. Also from Aluminum Crate. Aluminum Crate? How do I even pronounce it? I don't know. You guys know what I mean. If not, sorry. I've also bought some more personal development books. So I have gotten Atomic Habits, The Power of Now, and Claim Your Power. And then if we move on to more books, I bought the Witcher box set. I also bought one of my indie friends' books. It is A Crown as Sharp as Pines, and it is a third book in a series. The fourth book is about to be released, so be on the lookout for that one. I also bought How to Not Write a Novel in a Secondhand Store, and also a new copy at a bookstore of Akutar, because people keep telling me I should read it and I have not, so yeah. I also ended up buying 2 books from Jane Austen at the secondhand store, so that is also on my list of books that I bought. Now for the books that I've actually read throughout the year, that's a different story. So if I look at this year in general and what I have and have not been able to achieve, there is definitely a lot that has happened that has affected what I have achieved this year and how many books I've read, how many words I've written, and all of those kinds of things. I will be doing a full-on kind of year review video later on where I explain everything that has happened this year and also where I'm at versus where I thought I was going to be at the start of this year, and also kind of outlining what I've been able to get done for writing wise, how many hours I've spent on things, and all kinds of fun little things. But that's not what we're here for today. We're here for the books that I've actually read this year. It's not that many, spoiler alert, but yeah, there are not that many books that I've actually read this year. One of the books that I did read is The Plot Thickens, and it was an audiobook. I've also read A Crown as Sharp as Pines. It is also one of the books that I bought this year. I read it as an ARC and got it as a digital copy from the author, and I want to support her, so I bought the book once it released. Also read part of an anthology which is called Enchanted Forest. It is a collaboration of multiple authors that I am familiar with, and they sent me an arc that I could read. So I also read the book Supermarket, which for me was an interesting read. I really enjoyed reading it, and it kind of outlined some of the thoughts that I had, and I felt like I wasn't being crazy. So that was pretty nice, and it's kind of an interesting story, I feel. Yeah, do with that what you will. My longest book that I've read this year is the first book in the Outlander series. I have watched the Outlander series on Netflix, and I really enjoy the story, and I have bought the books way back when, but I have not actually read them. Yeah. It seems to be a recurring theme in my book collection. I end up buying them but not reading them. It happens. And I have also read this year the Claim Your Power book. I am currently in the last few bits of that book, but I know that I will be able to finish it before the end of the year. As for other books that I have read this year, I haven't. I started a lot of books, I just haven't finished them. If we go over to my Goodreads page, you can actually see that I have a lot of books in my currently reading section. It's just I will start reading them and then just not finish them. That is kind of what I do. So I'm currently like reading the second book in the Outlander series. I started it on my holiday. I have not really touched it since. I've also been reading the Midnight Sun book in the Twilight series. I have also been trying to read the Harry Potter series. I started that in 2020 and I got to like the second book and I have not continued since. I have also been trying to read the Game of Thrones series, and I'm currently in the second book, but I've not touched that at all this year, I feel. And one of the books that's also on my currently reading stack is a book about pyramids. I'm kind of trying to read this for my mom because she doesn't want to read it in English, so I will just try and summarize it for her. But I have not really gotten much of that done. I also have the Power of Now book, and I've started reading that. Really enjoyed it, but I have not been reading. I haven't been reading. I've also started the Midnight Library, I think it's called. It is a book that my friend lent to me probably over a year ago, I think. And I have not returned it to her because I've not read it. She knows I've not read it, and she's okay with me keeping the book until I've actually read it, but yeah, it's a problem. I've also been reading the After series for a while now. I tried to finish the book before seeing the third movie. I've not seen the fourth movie, but I didn't. I didn't really finish all of the books yet, and to be honest, it's just probably gonna be there and I'll probably read it at some point, but I've just not been excited to read, and I've also not had kind of the rest I feel to be reading, so I've just kind of not read anything. So this year I've kind of focused on doing other things that are not necessarily reading. So I have been doing some writing, which, you know, it's important. I'm working on my books, and I've also been doing YouTube, which obviously I didn't do last year, and I've just been doing all the other things that are not necessarily reading. And I think what currently is more or less the problem is I want to read, don't get me wrong, I really do, but at the same time, sometimes whenever I'm like, okay, I am done for today, I can go relax for a little bit before I go to bed, in my head I'm like, I should read, and I want to, but then also in my head is like, but you're really tired and you probably won't be able to even focus on the words, so you should probably just watch something instead. And that's kind of what I've been doing. So it's not great, but it's also just kind of what has been happening. And I'm not gonna beat myself up over not reading more books, But I don't like the fact that I have actually bought a lot of books and not read any of them. The only book that I bought this year that I've actually read is A Crown as Sharp as Pines, and then also the Claim Your Power book. So those are two books that I've actually bought and read. But other than that, the books that I've bought are just kind of here, and they look pretty on a shelf, and I really enjoy my collection, but I've not really read them. And I feel like the majority of these books I have not read, so it's, you know, it's become a bit of a problem. So I kind of want to make a better habit of reading next year. And I say that with a question mark because who knows if that's actually going to happen. So I think I will be rounding up this year with 6 books read for 2022. Now last year I got a lot more books read, and I also feel partially that was because my holiday was much different than this holiday. Even though I spent the same amount of time kind of away originally, we planned to be away for 3 weeks. We were away for 3 weeks last year, and we usually read a lot. Last year I actually got to read a lot. But this year I obviously wasn't. If you've not been able to see that video on why my holiday was not necessarily a great holiday, I will leave the links up in the cards for you to check out those videos. I think that's kind of it for the books I've read, although I gotta add a few books that I have read or partially read and that are not currently on this list. So also on this year's list of things that I have read are books that I have not been released yet. One of the books I've read this year was a book by my critique partner. She wrote a short kind of novella style book. I think it's about 15,000 words, so, or whatever category that falls into. And I have read that, I think, twice this year to kind of go over it, give her feedback, and also kind of see if we need to change anything that is not necessarily written correctly. So I've read that. Does that count? It is not released yet. I know that she's working on it, and I think she might be releasing it early 2023, so be on the lookout for that. If you want to find out what book that was and who the author is, all of that, then you should probably follow me on Instagram because that's where I'll be sharing that book once it's released. Another book I've read this year was a book that I beta read. I was supposed to finish it by the end of October and I didn't. I let the author know though, and she was okay with me just sending what I did read. I read about halfway through her book and it was just time crunch and I just wasn't able to finish it on time, but that's something. I read like half a book. I don't know if that counts, but yeah. I've also beta read the book that my friend is writing on Wattpad. So she writes a German version and then translates it to English, and I check the English one because I'm not fluent in German, so I'll let her deal with that. I check the English version for her to kind of see if her sentences make sense and if there's anything that's kind of explained weird or that the translation from German to English doesn't make sense in the sentence structure, or sometimes the words she misspells, but hey, don't we all? So I checked that, and if you want to check out that story, I will be sure to leave a link to her English version and also her German version in case you are German and you want to read it in German or practice your German. I will leave both of those links to her Wattpad in the description below. I think that is all of them. I'm checking my bookshelves to see if there's any more books that I'm actually missing that I have read but just not put on the list. I don't know. So that is this video coming to an end again, and I hope you enjoyed kind of seeing my bookshelves, knowing what I bought this year, which is, you know, quite a lot, and also knowing what I read this year. Now, I did say that there is going to be more books coming to this collection, and the reason for that is because I have ordered a advent calendar that is filled with bookish stuff from someone on Etsy, and it includes 5 books. So I'm really excited to open those up starting the 1st of December. Be sure to check out my channel on those days because I will be posting daily shorts opening my daily package for the advent calendar. So be sure to check that out once it's here. So with that, I am going to log off for this video, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. I think I'll be rounding up this year with 5 books read, 6 books read. Yes, I will leave them up in the cards for you to check out. That's the wrong side. So one of the books I read this year, I think it was this year? Now I'm starting to doubt it, but I think it was this year.